people in make-believe are learning that there are certain things they can do and certain things they can't.
For 33 years, Fred Rogers was a symbol of unwavering calm and kindness. But his wife Joanne revealed a secret.
It just breaks my heart. And I know it breaks everybody's heart.
Every year, he wrote an anguished letter to God, questioning if his work truly mattered. He kept over 30 of these letters locked away, alongside a manuscript so raw, publishers refused to print it. But this wasn't just simple doubt. It was the private, crushing weight of his public persona. Because the gentle, perfect man the world loved wasn't just a person. It was a fortress, built to protect the traumatized and bullied boy he was terrified of showing the world. The forging of Fred Rogers. Long before he was America's beloved neighbor, Fred Rogers was a lonely, bullied, and sickly child who learned to use puppets to survive a world that terrified him. He was born on March 20th, 1928, in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, into a world of immense wealth. His father, James, had just built a mansion complete with heated floors and a private elevator. His mother, Nancy, came from a powerful banking family. But despite the 47-acre estate and a staff of 3 servants, Fred was deeply lonely. His father was rarely home, working long days at the steel plant. More than any luxury, Fred just craved emotional closeness. This profound sense of isolation would soon be compounded by a series of devastating traumas that would shape his entire life's work. At just 2 years old, during the Great Depression, Fred contracted both measles and scarlet fever at the same time. It was a terrifying diagnosis. 15% of children in Pennsylvania who got both illnesses didn't survive. He was stuck in bed for 47 days, his fever spiking above 104 degrees, causing him to hallucinate. During those long, terrifying days, his mother sat beside him. His fingers were too weak from the fever to play a normal piano, so she taught him how to play melodies using only the black keys. That piano became his first real friend, his first language for expressing the emotions he couldn't speak. A year later, at age 3, he was diagnosed with severe developmental dyspraxia. He couldn't tie his shoes or even use a fork properly. A doctor, seeing no hope, suggested to his parents that he be sent away to an institution. Instead, they hired a physical therapist named Margaret Thompson, who brought puppets to their sessions. By making the puppets move, she made Fred's fingers dance. Within 6 months, his coordination improved by 300%. He had been saved by puppetry, but the insecurity from this time ran deep. He still needed help with his shoes until he was 12. That same year, trauma struck again. A train derailed just 400 yards from his home, killing 47 people. Fred stood at his window and saw the wreck. His father, trying to protect him, told him the victims were just sleeping. But Fred later learned the truth from a newspaper headline. The horror of the event, compounded by the lie, stayed with him forever. He asked his mother, "Why do people get hurt when they're just trying to go somewhere?" It was a question he would spend the rest of his life trying to answer. By age 5, he was spending hours alone in the attic, using old socks to perform puppet shows for an audience of stuffed animals. This was his psychological route. He was a boy who had been bullied, institutionalized by a doctor, and lied to about death. He was using puppets to create a world that was safe, honest, and kind. When he entered school, the real world proved to be just as cruel as he feared. He was relentlessly bullied. He was tall but skinny and had a high voice. Kids called him Squeaky. One day, 3 football players shoved him into a locker during lunch. No one was punished. When he tried to play the piano at school assemblies, the crowd mocked him, threw paper planes, and once even poured chocolate milk all over his sheet music. The bullying was so bad, he began seeing a therapist. Even his own father rejected his passion. James Rogers wanted his son to be strong, to take over the steel business. He saw Fred's puppets as a weakness, once giving him an ultimatum. Stop the puppet nonsense or find your own way. Fred chose his own way. At age 15, another trauma hit. During World War II, he volunteered for civil defense, watching the skies for enemy bombers. One night, radar picked up a threat. Fred stood on a rooftop for 4 hours, convinced an attack was coming. It turned out to be American planes, but the fear was real. He began having recurring nightmares of fire from the sky. It was then he made a vow that would define his entire career. He would never, ever include a single act of violence in anything he created for children. He was forging his mission, not from a place of strength, but from a place of deep personal pain. The hidden battles of Mr. Rogers. When Fred Rogers landed his first big break at NBC in New York in 1951, he thought he'd made it. But that excitement didn't last. He was disturbed by what passed for children's entertainment, watching grown adults throw pies in each other's faces. It felt wrong. After only 6 weeks, Fred walked out, telling everyone he had seen enough. He got another chance in Pittsburgh in 1954, co-creating a small show called The Children's Corner. The entire show ran on a shoestring budget of just $150 a week, split between Fred and his co-host. He had one single yellow legal pad to plan an entire year's worth of content. The studio was chaos. Fred had to run from the puppet stage to the organ and back again during live broadcasts, which is why he famously switched to wearing sneakers. Daniel Tiger was born the night before the launch, made from a sock handed to him by the station manager. Fred voiced all 13 puppet characters live every day, making up dialogue on the spot. But this creative freedom came at a cost. One day, after a long episode, Fred collapsed from sheer exhaustion on the studio floor. The pressure was also weighing on his marriage. In 1956, during an argument about the show, Fred did something completely out of character. He smashed one of his puppets. He and his wife Joanne rarely shouted, but this time, things broke. He would carry the guilt of that outburst for the rest of his life. He was a man struggling with his own mission, but in 1969, he became an untouchable icon of goodness. PBS funding was under threat, and Fred found himself in front of a Senate committee. He had just 5 minutes. He softly told them his salary, exactly $28,000 a year, and compared it to commercial executives making $200,000. Then, he recited the lyrics to a song he wrote about anger. The room, full of gruff politicians, went silent. Senator John Pastore leaned in and said, "You've just earned the $20 million. That 5-minute testimony saved PBS." This was his apex. The public saw a man of unshakable, gentle confidence. But this image was a carefully constructed persona, hiding a very different man. The public saw a soft, slow man. This was a deliberate choice. The real Fred Rogers was a disciplined athlete. Diagnosed with mild hypertension, he began swimming 3 miles every morning at 5:30 a.m. He could bench 200 pounds and did 100 push-ups a day. He had the heart rate of a marathon runner. He actively hid this physical strength, fearing it would shatter the gentle, non-threatening image he had cultivated for children. This gentle persona also required a rigid, almost obsessive private control. For 30 years, Fred Rogers weighed himself every single day, always in the same swimsuit and goggles, until he hit a perfect, unchanging 143 pounds. This wasn't just a number, it was a secret code: 143, 1 letter for I, 4 for love, and 3 for you. The public calm was a mask for a life of intense private discipline. He wasn't just teaching kindness, he was a quiet rebel, fighting his own industry. In May 1969, 1 year after Dr. King's assassination, he invited Officer Clemens, the show's first black cast member, to cool his feet with him in a small plastic pool. This was a direct, powerful protest against the segregation that still banned black families from white swimming pools across the country. The backlash was immediate. Southern stations refused to air the episode. He received over 500 angry letters, many filled with racial slurs. He responded to every single one of them, calmly and personally. He did it again during the Vietnam War, producing a 5-part series called Conflict. The Puppet King Friday built fences and declared emergencies, teaching children about war through imagination. Parents were furious, calling him un-American. When CBS refused to air it nationally, Fred mailed the copies to the stations himself. When a close friend took their own life, Fred fell into a deep doubt. He wrote a raw script where Mr. McFeely receives a letter from God about grief. The producers didn't want to air it. Fred insisted. It aired and became one of his most talked about episodes. The man everyone thought was the safest on television was, in fact, the most dangerous. It's shocking to see how a life so public could hide a secret so devastating. Here on RetroFame, were dedicated to uncovering the true, often hidden, stories of the figures you thought you knew. If you believe these stories need to be told, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive. Now, for Fred Rogers, this reveal was just the beginning. The fallout from his private life, discovered only after his death, was even more dramatic. The unlocked drawer. When Fred Rogers passed away from stomach cancer on February 27, 2003, the world reacted with a singular, profound wave of grief. Over 50 million commemorative stamps featuring his red cardigan were sold. His iconic sweater itself, which he had obsessively weighed every day to ensure it was exactly 2.7 pounds, was given to the Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh, treated like the relic of a saint. The world mourned the man they saw on TV, the unwavering, gentle, and perfect neighbor. But it was only after his death that his wife, Joanne, finally revealed the truth of the man she knew, and the secrets he kept locked away. In a 2018 interview, Joanne shared the story of his locked drawer. Inside, she found over 30 letters, one for each of his birthdays, all addressed to God. But these weren't letters of gratitude. As the video title promised, their contents were chilling. They were letters of profound and agonizing self-doubt. Year after year, the man who reassured millions of children that they were special just the way they were, wrote to God asking if his work really mattered and if he was doing enough. He was haunted by the fear that his message wasn't getting through. He had kept these letters locked away, asking Joanne to keep them private while he was alive, specifically because he didn't want people to think he never had doubts. Alongside those letters were journals filled with the mail from viewers that had made him cry, letters from kids whose parents were divorcing, kids who had lost siblings, kids who were scared. He carried the emotional weight of every single one, spending his evenings personally writing back, trying to absorb their pain. This wasn't the only secret he hid. The drawer also contained a manuscript from 1986, The World of Mr. Rogers, that publishers had refused to print, calling it too raw for his public image. The manuscript revealed his lifelong secret, a crippling insecurity over the deep, permanent acne scars on his face. He wrote about how, as a teenager, he hated how he looked, spending his paper route money on high-end cosmetics. He admitted that he chose television over in-person ministry, specifically because he believed his scarred face would be a distraction in real life. The man who taught "It's you I like" was terrified that people wouldn't like him. In the rejected draft, he even shared that he would sometimes wipe off his makeup on camera on purpose during sad episodes so that children could see someone imperfect and still kind. But the publishers cut it, forcing his insecurity to remain hidden in plain sight. This final hidden truth reframes his entire life, especially his final years. When he was diagnosed with stomach cancer in late 1998, he responded not just with his hidden strength, but with his hidden insecurities in mind. He refused to stop working. He filmed 65 more episodes of the show, while he was actively undergoing chemotherapy. He was so sick that he would often throw up between takes, but he never missed a shoot. And in a final act of hiding his imperfect self, he wore padding under his clothes to hide his 40-pound weight loss. Not for his own vanity, but so the children wouldn't notice he was sick and be frightened. He even worked his own suffering into the scripts, having Daniel Tiger experience stomach aches to give children a language for pain he never had. His final episode, aired in August 2001, was his last, quiet goodbye. He looked at the camera and said farewell to the neighborhood trolley. This wasn't just for the audience. As a child, he used to wave goodbye to real trolleys from his porch. When he told the trolley, "You were special to me," it was Fred Rogers saying goodbye to his life's work. In 1995, he had already proven what that work meant to him. He was offered a $1 million licensing deal to make Mr. Rogers toys. He turned it all down. He refused to turn his characters into profit. He said the space between the screen and the child was sacred, and he would never let money touch that space. That integrity was his final, unshakable truth. The legacy of doubt. In the end, the man who spent 33 years making every child feel seen and valued was, in private, the one man who couldn't see his own worth. The locked drawer revealed the chilling truth. He was a quiet rebel, a secret athlete, and a beloved icon who was privately haunted by his own scars and the terrifying fear that he wasn't good enough. His legacy isn't just kindness, it's the profound proof that someone can be full of doubt, insecurity, and pain and still choose to spend their entire life being a force for good. But what do you think? Does knowing about Fred Rogers' profound self-doubt and insecurity make his message of acceptance even more powerful? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We have a new video just like this one coming next day of week. If you love digging deeper than the headlines, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another video. If you love this story, we've got more celebrity deep dives queued up for you. Just click the videos on your screen to continue. Thanks for watching.